friends, Kim from stampingandperfection.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sharing a card today from TLC Designs. TLC is to live creatively, and that's just tlcdesigns.com. I'll share all the links below. I'm using some of their digital stamps today and a couple of their great die cuts. Like TLC Designs has some great die cuts. I'm going to specifically use this Snowman. There are two different digital stamp sets, Snow Family Fun Mailbox and Snow Family Fun Christmas Tree. Then there is the coordinating paper, which you see here in my right hand. And the paper is from, and I just printed out two different ones here. The paper is from the Snow Family Fun digital paper set. So I'm going to play with that tree paper. I love this paper. And I'm going to make a slimline card. Most slimline cards are 3.5 by 8.5. So I'm going to cut this down to about, no, it's, yes, 3.5 by 8.5. I'm going to cut it down to about 3 3/8 by 8 3/8. So I'll just cut all the white off the edges here and just cut it down. And then that'll leave me a little bit of space to put a little colored border around the edge, because I like to have a little colored border. Now, when I printed this paper out, I actually resized it so that it filled my whole sheet of paper, and I added that sentiment from the Snow Family Fun stamp set. So I just layered the sentiment on top right on my computer in a Word document, and that allowed me to have my sentiment pre-printed, so I didn't have to mess around with the sentiment strip or anything like that. So it made it super easy. So I'm going to put those other images aside, and I'm going to go ahead and color my snowman. And I'm going to start with the hat. I'm using a lot of the W's. These are Copic markers. So I'm starting with the darkest one. This is W9. And these are warm grays, by the way. So I'm just going to add that dark to both sides of the hat, to the brim, along the top part of the hat, and then I'm just going to start filling it in with lighter colors. So this is the W7. So I'm just going to extend out what I've already colored a little bit. I go over what I've colored and then extend out. This is the W5. I'm just going to fill it in a little bit more, and that's just going to leave me a little bit of space for the W3, and then I'll just fill the whole thing in with the W3, and that makes it look like he's got a nice highlight in the middle of his hat, and I always like the way that looks. So I'm going to take that W1, and I'm just going to shade around the scarf and all around the edges of the body, and then I'm just doing like semicircular or curved flicks from the edge of the body in, so that I'm giving this a little bit of shading along the edges and curving it so that it gives the appearance that those snowballs are that the snowman's made out of are curved or round. Now I'm using my C00, and I'm just pulling that W1 out a little bit farther. That CW0 is nice because it will actually like fade into the white better. And it's interesting because in order to get that snowman to look white and to look like it has some dimension, you actually have to use a little bit of gray on it. So I just used my my R29 and my R24 to color in the holly berries and the heart. And then I'm going to use some greens, and I love this G29. This is one of my favorite colors, and this is G24. So now I'm just filling in those little holly leaves. And I think this little guy is so cute, and he's pretty quick to color. So I've got some E's here. I'm going to start with E29, and I'm just going to go ahead and color in these stick arms and the buttons. So I'm just going to use a couple of colors because these are pretty thin little pieces. So this is E23, I think, or 24. And I have all of the colors listed on my blog. And That's at stampingimperfection.com, by the way, so that if you want to print them out, you can go to my blog and print those out. This is E21. I'm just filling it in a little bit. And now I'm going to do the little buckles. I'm using some of my lighter grays. I'm using W3. I sort of want them to look silver. So I'm using W3 and W1 to fill that in, and then a little bit of the C00 just because I didn't pull out the W0s. So I'll leave those at that. And then I've got some nice blues here. So this is B29. And I'm just going to put this where it's sort of bunched. So it looks a little bit darker in some spots. And then I'm just darkening the edges of the scarf and on each like fold. And I'm also doing the hat. So this is B24, and I'm just adding that in and filling in and just like pulling the color out a little bit farther. So I'll take then B23 and add a little bit more, and I'll end with the B21 when I'm all done. If there are any spaces left that need color, and there's just a little bit on the ends there. And then I'm going to go back through and just darken the dark spots a little bit more just to make them stand out more. I find that I feel like it looks fine when I take photos of it. Those darker spots need to be darker to really show well in the photos. So I always think that I go back and darken them a little bit. And even without taking photos of it, it just looks so much better when those dark spots are really distinct. So when I start with the dark one, then it kind of blends the dark to the light, and I really want those dark spots to stand out. So this guy is just so cute. It's a very sweet image. There are a couple of adult snow people, and there's a baby snow person, and there's lots of sentiments and coordinating stamps in this set. So I'm using YR18 here, and then YR15, and I'm going to add just a little touch of yellow with my Y15, and just to tone down the orange a little bit. And I pulled out RV10 to just give him a little pink in his cheeks. And I'm going to take my R1 again and just reshade the edges and under the scarf, just because I didn't feel like it was dark enough. And probably I should have been braver and used a W3 or even, something a little darker, because it just gives it more definition. So now I'm taking my W5 and adding a little bit of that to the buckles and just touching up the buckles a little bit. I didn't feel like they looked silver enough. They were too light. So adding the darker color definitely helped. So now I'm going to take this image and I'm going to cut it out with my brother's Scan and Cut. You can fussy cut it, and I love the way this came out. That machine does such a great job cutting it out. And I always leave a little white image there. So or a little white border around the edge. So I've cut my card base at 7 by 8.5. I scored it and folded it at 3.5. And that red is cut at 3.5 by 8.5. So that gives me just a little bit of red around the edge, and I feel like it's just what it needs. Now, another thing I want to do is I want to sort of make that sentiment stand out a little bit more. So I'm just using a journaling pen. This is a La Pen journaling pen. I'm just going around the edge, and I think that's a 0.1. And now I'm taking my W5 marker, and I'm just drawing a drop shadow. This might be W3 along the bottom and the right hand side, and it sort of makes that look a little bit more three-dimensional, almost like I actually put a separate sentiment and attached it to the top of that, when really I printed it out. I just made it a layer when I was covering that. So this would look cute like this, But I really want to play with some of these circle dies. This is the Aztec Sunshine die, and you can see there are two circular pieces there that are separate that can be used together or separately, and lots of little bits you can use with it. I also have the Happy Dragonfly circle, and again, two different circular frames you can use, and look at all the little bits you have there. On the back it shows you some of the ways you can layer those two frames together. So I'm going to use those two circles. I love this scallop circle, and I'm just checking to see that it fits on the front of the card, and it fits just right on the front of this card. So that is about 3.5 inches in diameter there, and I'm going to take those two because I want to cut two pieces. I'm going to make a shaker element, so I'm going to put those two together, and I'm going to cut those two together on the red piece. So that will give me a frame it will give me a scallop frame. And each of those scallops will have a little piece die cut out of them. I just love this. It's such a pretty scallop circle set. So this will allow me to have a frame by using these two together. If I use that scallop piece alone, it will actually be a full scallop piece. Like I could use it to make Christmas tags, and I fully intend to use this to make some Christmas tags. So I'm using my Gemini Junior here, and the plates are fairly new, so they haven't been, cut up too much. And you can see when I pull this off, that is some washi tape too. And when you use it on the Gemini, it really sticks. Isn't that pretty? It's so pretty. And then on the bonuses, I have that beautiful circle piece with a double stitch design. And I just tapped that die a couple times and all the pieces came out. Isn't that pretty? That's going in my cup of extra things so I can use it for another project. I'll already have it all made. So I'm going to dump those. I have these little collapsible garbage cans I keep right on my desk. It keeps my craft room much cleaner when I clean up as I go. Now I'm going to take a piece of white, and I'm just going to cut this time just the scallop piece. Okay, and with the Gemini, you put a magnetic sheet, you put a shim, and then you have the cutting plate on the top and the bottom. So I run this through my Gemini, and I will have the whole scallop piece this time. So I'm going to use those to make my shaker element. And then I'll place that on top of the card base that I've already got, and I'll go ahead and put my snowman on top of that. So that will be a pretty quick and easy card. Like, I know that people love to make super detailed cards, but I don't know about how much time you have to do that. I don't always have time. I'll make a few super detailed cards, but I would like some cards with some nice elements on them. And, lots of details. And these dies give it such beautiful details. What I love about these die sets, too, is they come with so many other pieces. The different ways that you can use them seem limitless because there are so many pieces. You can use just the little dragonfly bits or just the little floral bits. The one piece looks like you could use it as a little sun. I pulled out this is actually one of the packaging pieces that came with one of the die sets. I'm going to use that for my shaker acetate because my craft supplies in this craft room are limited, and I need to get some acetate actually. So I'm going to use this. So I'm basically just going to cut two pieces. I'm just going to cut this apart and then use it that way. And I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive to stick it down, and then I'm going to let it dry and then put everything all together. So I tried here to die cut it, and that did not work at all. So don't waste your time trying to die cut it in the die machine. So it didn't work. It just sort of embossed it, actually. So good tip. Plus it moved that's my one complaint about the Gemini actually. Stuff moves. Even sometimes when I tape it, it moves. So I've got two pieces of the acetate cut in a general circle, and I will fussy cut around that scallop later when the glue is dry. But right now I'm just going to add some glue I'm adding it to the back of this red scallop piece that I'm using. And I'm going to put the acetate on top of that, so that the glue is between the acetate and the top frame, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put a piece of acetate on the white also, so that all the shaker bits will be between the two acetate pieces. I thought they would shake easier, and in the end, they shake fine. And I put the acetate on top, and I like this glue. This is the multimedia matte. I've been using this for years, and these fit together beautifully. I do have that plastic hanging out. I'll fix that later. So I've got some shaker elements in my stash, and I'm just going to pour some from two different pieces because I had used the blue scarf and I liked that a lot, but I wanted some red and green and some gold in there, so I pulled a second set out. And now I'm just going to attach this down. Now I'm using this multimedia matte, but it's not going to, this will actually stick the two pieces of acetate together. This doesn't actually stick very well on the acetate. So later I went back and I used double-sided tape, 1/8 inch double-sided tape, and put it between the two pieces, and that worked so much better. The acetate stuck fine to the cardstock. It didn't stick that well to other acetate. So I'm just going to put a block on there and hold it all together. Actually, I think I put 2 blocks. And those 2 scallops just line up beautifully. So I put that there, and then I went and had lunch, let it dry. So now I'm back from lunch, and things shake nicely. The only thing is I see it's coming apart. And as I take my little fussy cutting scissors, and these are Tim Holtz fussy cutting scissors. They're serrated, they're micro serrated, like non-stick scissors. I really like these scissors. I have Cutter Bee scissors that I like too for fussy cutting, and these are really quite nice. So I just recently got this pair because I did not have a pair of fussy cutting scissors here. And I'm surprised by how much I like the little micro serrations on the ends of these little scissors. But those fine tip scissors are nice and easy. And I'm just trimming off that extra acetate. That's all I'm doing. And so one of the things I could have done here as I was cutting this, since it took a while to cut this, I realized I probably could have done a nice technique on that. You know, I could have used some distress ink or alcohol ink or something to decorate that white. I kind of wanted it to just look like snow, but I could have taken some molding paste, with glitter in it, and created a nice little snowy scene that would have been very festive. So that's another thing to consider. I would have needed to plan ahead a little more for that, because that would be a step that you would want to sit. So I'm just attaching all my pieces together, and I'm just using tape runner. I'm keeping it quick and easy, and just adding the pieces all together. And then I'm going to add that shaker element with foam on top. But at some point here, I realize that it's coming apart. And, I thought I put foam under that. I think I put foam in that. Here's where I realize it's coming apart. This is not working well. So I'm going to end up actually taking that apart and adding some double-sided tape. I love double-sided tape, by the way. I have it in my stash in all sizes, and I use it for all kinds of projects like this. So, I'm going to go ahead and grab my 1/8 inch, and I have to go around that circle, and there are those pretty scallops there with the holes in them, and I really like the way that looks. So I'm wondering, how am I going to make this work? And it does work. I just kind of go around the circle and make it work. So I'm just gathering all of the sequins in the center there. So the 1/8 inch, and it's not going to be perfectly flat. I'm just going to really squish it down with my finger, and this worked amazingly well. Like, I have foam and stuff like that, but it's like, it's a lot of work to make it go around a circle, so I didn't bother, and it shakes well enough. Like, the shaker elements are mostly there to be pretty anyway. And so I'm also noticing that that back piece did not stick well. So I removed it. I just took it off, and I put the sequence right on the white paper itself. And now I'm just removing the backing from that double-sided tape. And I'm going to stick it on. And again, super easy to align these two pieces because they were cut with the same die. And they just line up beautifully. And if they don't line up beautifully, you can just take a red marker or whatever color marker that coordinates with the paper that you used. So now I've got my shaker element, and I'm just making sure it's all sticking down in all of the places. And it does. And the little shaker bits did not stick to the tape because the tape really held well between those two pieces. So I'm adding some foam tape to the back of my snowman. That's where I put the foam. And now I'm just going to stick him right on top of that. So I tried to move all the shaker bits to the right so I could put him on the left. And that is that. Cute. I'll send this to my sister. She'll think I did a whole bunch of work here. I'll tell her I hand cut all those little scallop circles, and she'll be totally impressed. She'll also know better. So these dies are amazing. Like, I love that. Like, there's so much more I can do with that. And I love that I can make a frame. I love that I can make an element that's a whole piece that has a scalloped edge that I can use for tags or even Christmas ornaments on the Christmas tree. And I love that there are other bits inside there. So you can use them together or separately. And here are some of the other things that I got. I got the Celebrate stamp set. This is the Land and Sea die. This is the, what is the name of this one? I have to learn the names of all these. That's the Aviary oval die. Then I love this little strip. These are little strips that you can use along the bottom. And if you don't want an ice cream cone or a cake, you can cover those up with a bow. Then there's this gorgeous Celebrate frame die set. Like, look at the detail on those frames. Then this one, I haven't had a chance to play with. This is See You in the Center. That's an interactive die. And then I have two of these sweet little dragons that stamp sets. And then there are digital stamps. TLC Designs really has a lot of different products that are pretty amazing. So check it out. I'll put all the links below. Make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to my channel while you're here, and stop by my blog at stampingimperfection.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.